Hey everybody, welcome to another Tears at the Table. I'm really excited because I have an old friend that I actually don't know how many years we've known each other now, who is on here to talk about her story, which is really incredible and led to her opening an amazing organization called Faith, Hope, and Love that helps foster kiddos. But I'm going to let Heather introduce herself some more and share her story.
Thank you. My name is Heather, and I'm the executive director and co-founder. My husband and I have created Faith, Hope, and Love. We're based in Racine, but we operate across the state of Wisconsin. And so I know you asked about my testimony. I grew up in a very abusive home, and I was repeatedly picked up by my neck, shaken, and thrown into walls by my mother. And I don't mean, when I say into walls, I don't mean like hit the wall. I mean like hit and go into the wall, thrown. And it's left permanent damage to my spine and my jaw that affects my life daily. I was sexually abused by my father from the age of 3 to 18 and a half years old. My mother emotionally abused me my entire life, telling me she wished I was dead. She wished she had gotten an abortion, calling me stupid, telling me I'd never become anything good. And she said I would never graduate college. I would cry out to God and pray, please come rescue me. Send someone to rescue me. And my mother told me one day that my prayers were stupid and God would never hear me. And when this happened, I stopped praying. Fortunately, God never stopped protecting me and He never left me. In high school, I met a man who would later become my husband. And for the first 3 years of our marriage, my husband did not fully know what had happened in my childhood. When we had gotten married, he had thought I had a relationship with Jesus, but his idea of a relationship with Jesus and mine were so different. My husband prayed every day for me. He prayed on days he knew I was planning to commit suicide, on days I couldn't get out of bed. He walked through a very tough journey with me, and even when our counselor told us it would be okay to give up on our marriage, he never did. One day, I had written letters to my children and husband and had made plans to end my life. I went to church with our family that day, and as I walked in, I said to God, this is it. You either fix me today or I end it tomorrow. I cannot walk this road any further. The physical pain and the emotional pain was more than I could bear. There was an altar call for prayer that day, and I can't tell you how I got up there, but God got me there. And I prayed with a lady that I did not know, but would later become a very close friend. And I told her I could not go on living life this way. I don't remember what she prayed, but I remember the feeling of peace that filled my body and my mind. I remember this heavy weight lifting from me, and from that day forward, I was never the same. While I had a long road ahead of me in my healing journey, I knew God would be with me. And over the next 10 years, God taught me how to pray again, how to trust Him, and how to forgive. And then God began to show me how He was going to take all that I had been through and turn it around for my good and the benefits of others in similar circumstances. I went to college after a counselor had asked me, what have you always wished you could do? And my response was, go to college. I not only graduated with my bachelor's degree, but with a master's degree. And in 2013, my husband and I began Faith, Hope, and Love. Many have seen our vehicles driven around town. Some children have received our Duffels for Kids bags, and then they've attended Operation Christmas Cheer. And all of our campers are at Camp Hope because we wanted to create a place where they would know that God loves them. God has a plan for their life, and anything that seems hopeless right now, God can turn around for their good. God can heal them from depression, suicidal thoughts, and so much more. And He can be their best friend and will always be there for them. And He never leaves us and He never forsakes us.
Thank you for sharing that. That's actually the full time I've heard your testimony. I've heard pieces, but never the full thing together. So it's really incredible to hear that and hear that when you're talking about faith, hope, and love, it's really a huge part of your story and of your heart and who God created you to be. I was talking to someone in my last interview, actually, and it's crazy to hear both of your testimonies and just how far God brought you. And the theme of redemption seems to be a theme this year. And it's like he takes everything that is horrible. There's no good about what happened to you. It shouldn't have. That's just, it's horrible. But God took it and he made something good out of it.
Right.
It shouldn't have ever happened, but even those moments that shouldn't have happened can be redeemed and become something that doesn't just redeem you, but redeems so many lives around you. And it's a testament. Like today, we talk a lot about victimhood and being a victim to our story, but your story is you're a victor because of Christ. And you're able to go and tell these other kids, obviously you're not a child anymore, but these kiddos that you would have liked to hear that same
Right.
message and say, you're a victor. And even if you're in this situation and you go back into it and you're in it again and again, you can still be a victor. You can escape. You can find hope. And you can hear, like your name, Faith, Hope, and Love. You can hear that all of those things can happen.
Yeah.
Can you describe to people like the ins and outs of what faith, hope, and love is? Because there's a lot of people that don't understand foster care in general.
Yep.
So can you like explain a little bit of that?
Sure. So when we started Faith, Hope, and Love, we started with our Duffels for Kids program. It's an emergency duffel bag. It has a fleece blanket, a stuffed animal, storybook, coloring book, crayons, a hygiene kit, and a flashlight. We started that program because as foster parents ourselves, we were having kids come to our home who were either coming with a black trash bag of their belongings or a grocery bag or nothing at all. And for Mark and I, we just thought, what message are we sending a child if you give them a trash bag for their belongings? Like, I'm sorry, but you're not worth more than a trash bag. Like, to me, that just, it's so wrong. And so we wanted to do something different, something that gives them their dignity and gives them hope. And so we started that program. And that program now, while we started it for foster kids, we now actually utilize that program. First responders have access to it, schools, hospitals, shelters, even some of the churches, the local churches have access to that program. And we operate that across the state of Wisconsin now. And we started a Christmas program because we noticed that while the foster kids in our community were getting foster, they had a Christmas party with gifts for them. There's a there's another group of foster care kiddos that no one seems to remember, and that's the kinship care. And kinship care means they're living with a family member or a relative, and they didn't have anything for them. And we thought those families need just as much support. And so we started the Christmas program. We have Operation Christmas Cheer. We provide that to children in foster care, children in kinship care, and then we also provide it for children who have an incarcerated parent. And so every child that attends the party gets a gift, new pajamas, and a new blanket for Christmas. At the party, we have pizza and games and crafts and face painting, and it's just fun. And the last 2 years, both City of Racine and Mount Pleasant Police Departments have come in and done an indoor snowball fight with the kids and just had fun with them. So it's been great. And then in the last 4 years, we've started Camp Hope. And we do that in partnership with Hope City Church. And Camp Hope is for at-risk youth ages 11 to 17. It's when we started, it was a 3 day camp that we did, one for girls and one for boys. This year we're pivoting a little and we're going to be doing day camps for 10 months. So every month the kids will come for a full day. And we're doing things like a junior police academy with the Mount Pleasant Police Department. We're doing a junior firefighter and EMT class, hopefully with South Shore Fire Department, working out details on that. And then we're doing the whole rest of the year, they're going to be learning. We've been going through the fruit of the spirit with them. And then we are also teaching them career readiness this year. And then next year, they'll do the same thing and we'll continue on with fruit of the spirit and they'll be learning about health and wellness. And then in year 2027, they're going to learn how to start their own business. But we're going to do it with everyone working on a coffee shop model. And each team will be working to create a coffee shop. And then we're going to combine all the team's efforts. And in 2028, we're going to launch a live mobile coffee shop. And so that's been where my heart really is with the kids that have been through so much trauma. I want to be someone that they can look at and realize that, okay, she got through, I can get through, and show them how God got me through. So this year, we're also teaching them how I relearned to pray because that was hard. It's hard when you're supposed to believe that God's your father, but then you've had an abusive father. And how do you make that correlation and how do you adjust? And so I want to teach them how God taught me to relearn prayer all over again and how he took me from not being able to ever speak my prayers, all I could handle was writing them, to now I am blessed and honored to serve on our prayer team at church and I pray all the time and it doesn't affect me anymore. And I have such a great relationship with God that like I'm not afraid to pray and I'm not afraid to go to him for help. And so I want to teach my campers that.
I love that. And I love that you shared that about teaching them how to pray again. I've spent quite a few years as a social worker now, so I've seen quite a few things over the years. And I think that's so important that you speak to, like you're talking about, you're filling in some of the missing gaps. Like you said, at-risk youth. You didn't necessarily say youth in foster care. And just while we're speaking, I want to touch on that even here where I'm at in Kentucky. That's a huge gap is the teenagers, and even more so than the teenagers, is that young adult that was completely missed. They're 18 and they're suddenly expected to know everything, to know how to have a normal family, how to have a boyfriend or girlfriend, how to buy a house, get a car, and they've never seen it before. And it's like you said, they need to hear your message. And it's not even necessarily, I'm taking you into my home. It's, I made it through and I have the marriage and you fought for it. And you have to fight through and be willing to stick through all those hard things and accepting those things weren't right. But knowing you don't have to repeat those patterns and you don't have to be a slave to them either. And it's like with foster care, even if you can't do foster care, something for teenagers, get involved with Camp Hope. Ask Heather how you can help out because I can tell you right now on my job, I read the files of so many teenagers every day. And their social workers will personally reach out to me, like, can you please get them a home? And I'm like, I have no one. There's absolutely no one. The need is just so great. And so maybe you're not in a place and maybe you're finding healing for yourself, but it's like there is something you can do for those kiddos, whether it's financially contributing or going and volunteering for a day at the camp or offering. I'm sure I don't want to promise that from you, but say like, I'm sure there are kids that could use a mentor or some that you could connect them to and just be like, hey, I'm here for you. Because it's what you're saying is I have a lot of people around the world and internationally that listen to this with Tirza, and I want them to recognize what you're doing is huge. The fact that you reach Wisconsin, not just one community, but the state, it's a massive impact. And it's something that's needed in every state. And it's just such a great need. And the awareness just isn't there. And that's what you do. My fun fact I want to tell people about you is your car. Because if they don't know you, your story, they don't know. Heather has a really fun vehicle that advertises faith, hope, and love. So if you're in Racine or Wisconsin, you will see it and you'll find that first responders do know right away. Oh, there's Heather.
Yep.
Or there is Faith, Hope, and Love. You're just driving down the road, and I'll be like, I'll show up at an event and be like, oh, Heather's here today. There's the vehicle. Such a fun way to advertise. And I'm sure that's fun for the kids too. And you get comments of like, oh, look at this really fun vehicle with the cute design. And it's raising awareness just by doing that. So I love that little quirkiness for you and your company. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely brought eyes to our car, and you're right. I get the kids all the time because it's got that purple to it, and they're always like, "Why is that car purple? Mom, look at that car."
Yep. It's super fun.
Yep, yep.
And I do want to ask you one final question.
Yeah.
And I want to actually make it more specific to you and your story of what would you tell a younger woman in her 20s who has gone through situations of being told by the people who are supposed to love them that they're not loved? What advice would you give them and words of encouragement?
Yeah, I think the things that got me through a lot of that was finding good Christian women to surround me that could speak life to me, and finding a good church that can provide support. I have a care pastor that is always there when the times get tough and I don't know what those next steps should be. And she has guided me many times through those tough times. And prayer. Prayer is, as much as that was my hardest thing to relearn, it actually has been the biggest blessing. And it's what's gotten me through every single tough spot. There's been many times when there was no one available for whatever reason. And just being able to pray, even if it was writing it, was what got me through. So those are probably my three biggest takeaways for someone in their 20s that's trying to walk through that.
I appreciate that. That's great advice. And I don't feel like we hear that enough about you didn't say find one woman. You said surround yourself with godly women and create that community and be a part of it. That's a huge part of Tears. But it's like you need more than one person. And it's like you're continually saying throughout your story is you turn back to God. We don't ever want to make that one person the person who becomes the fixer, the solver, but we want the community to help point us back to God. And you just communicated that very eloquently. So I appreciate that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. The other thing, for the older women, open yourself up to the younger women because they need to hear your story. I'm going to be 55 this year. I'm just now realizing how important it is for others to hear my story. And so open yourself up, be a vessel that can pour into these young lives.
I agree, and I like that you said that because I've spent years now, barely out of my young adult years, but even as a young adult, just talking to these women. They love what you do, but what they're going to hear is your story, and that's what they want. They want to know they don't need to be perfect to do something, and they don't have to be perfect for God. God meets you where you're at. And there's such this lie that girls are believing right now that they have to reach this status to do what
Right.
you do or to do what I'm doing. And they don't. We all have stories. So I agree 100%. Share your story. It will change somebody else's life.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Heather, and thank you for coming on and sharing your story. It was really fun to have you, and I'm really grateful I got to hear your whole entire story and I'm grateful for everything you do and it's been super fun to follow Faith, Hope and Love and see how much you've expanded in recent years.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. This was so much fun.